Hello, we are from Ukraine, and today we are talking about teaching practices at times of war and psychological uncertainty in Ukraine. In this presentation, we'll start with the introduction of Olena Ilienko, TESOL-Ukraine president. She is from Kharkiv, the place which was severely attacked by the Russian troops. And also you'll hear the stories of war by Ludmila Napolska, Ludmila Sinna, Petrenko, and Irina Zuyenok. And now I give floor to TESOL-Ukraine president, Olena Ilienko.
Thank you. My name is Olena Ilienko. I'm TESOL-Ukraine president, and it is a great honor for me and my great pleasure to speak to you today and tell you the story of TESOL-Ukraine and our activities in these difficult times. I would like to introduce our Association of English Language Teachers, TESOL-Ukraine, and give a short presentation of the teachers' practices for our students in the days of military conflict under the conditions of insecurity and psychological uncertainty. We believe our presentation will help you to get a more nuanced understanding of what is happening now, what is the recent situation in Ukraine, and about the activities of TESOL-Ukraine members at these difficult times. So the first slide, thank you, shows you the information about our association. TESOL-Ukraine was founded in 1995, and now it embraces 650 members all over Ukraine. They are English language teachers of secondary schools, universities, private schools, and so on. So the mission of the association is to introduce international standards in the sphere of teaching and learning English, to promote new ideas and methods of teaching English, to provide teacher training, and of course to develop professional networking of English language teachers with the international partners in the world. So the next, please. In time of peace, our main activities were annual TESOL-Ukraine conferences, teacher development institutes, trainings, seminars and webinars, forums for young researchers, and many others. In the year 2002, our association signed a partner's contract with Hawaii TESOL. And since that time, we have had a very strong and successful collaboration with the colleagues of Hawaii. It is important to mention that Ms. Sally Oi has been a very active intermediate person between our associations up to these difficult times for our country. We are very much thankful to her and to all colleagues and friends who have demonstrated their solidarity with the people of Ukraine and suggested their support. So one of the examples is of our cooperation is, of course, the fact that TESOL-Ukraine members have published their articles in the professional periodical, and the periodical work have regularly published the profiles of TESOL-Ukraine members all around the country. And all this was stopped on February 24. The peaceful life of Ukraine was dramatically stopped by Russian aggression. And more than 300 educational establishments, schools and university buildings have been ruined, mostly in the eastern and southern part of the country. 2/3 of the children in Ukraine had to flee abroad together with their mothers, so the families are separated. In these conditions, we are trying now to resume classes at schools and universities online. In our classes today, we can have such a situation when 8 out of 12 students are staying in different countries of Europe. So it goes without saying that teachers today are scared, exhausted, and they experience psychological uncertainty. At the same time, we have to calm down to support our students and sometimes even their families, and be very flexible with our methods of teaching and our innovative methods of organizing extracurricular activities. So on the next slide, you can see the names of the presenters who are active TESOL-Ukraine members and really devoted professionals. They represent different areas of Ukraine. Ludmila, Sinna, and me teach at Kharkiv University, at the city which is under restless bombing and shelling now. Ludmila Napolska is a representative of Sumy University. Sergei Petrenko teaches at Kyiv University, the capital of our country. And Irina Zuyenok represents Dnipro, a relatively safe place, though nowadays there is no safe place, no secure place in our country. So they all have their own stories of war, stories of teaching and fighting against the difficulties of military conflict in our country.
Yes, and now the floor is given to Ludmila Napolska.
Okay, dear colleagues, dear friends, dear TESOLers, dear participants of the conference. Again, like Lena said, it's my honor to address you and to share the story of the city that was the first to face this invasion. In fact, we border on Russian Federation. We are only 40 kilometers from it, And in fact, by the end of the 24th of February, the Russian tanks were already marching over the streets of Sumy. Sorry, just my background picture shows the blue sky and the building of our university, one of the buildings. What you see here on this slide is just some other building, which was later bombed, and there were 5 bombs that fell near it, and just all the windows were broken. And fortunately, the building wasn't damaged very severely, but still, it still has the traces of war. So when I was thinking about how to call my presentation, well, I decided that that would be the grammar of war. I know how, you all know how difficult sometimes it is to explain to foreign students, to students who are learning English as a foreign language, some of the grammar forms, especially singular and plural, sometimes are difficult to catch. Tense forms are difficult to catch. I will try to show how we have reconsidered the concepts of grammar after the 24th of February. Next slide, please. We have definitely reconsidered the notion of singular and plural. And in fact, I guess it will be very difficult for us to explain to students that one bomb is still singular. What if this bomb takes away 22 lives, 3 of whom are just children? Here you see the picture of one of the residential areas that was bombed on the 7th of March. And just, I know this, and I saw this with my own eyes, just because the house of my relatives fell under it. And I know from my own experience what it means just to take away the ceilings that have fallen down, and just to see the toys of the children that have been scattered around while children are not there any longer. Definitely, next slide, please. Definitely. It will be very much easy for us to explain to students what past perfect means, just because everything that was before the 24th of February is unfortunately in the past perfect. And I guess our students will very, very clearly understand the meaning of past indefinite structures, like used to do something and we were used to doing something. And I'm not sure we will call this past for us. This past was very much definite. We can't even say that for us it was indefinite. We used to work in the light and spacious classrooms. We used to teach more than 2,000 foreign students. We used to collaborate, and just the picture here next to the monument to Taras Shevchenko is the picture of our students just on the eve of war. This was how students were greeting each other on St. Valentine's Day. Unfortunately, we used to do this, and we were used to peaceful life. Then the 24th of February changed everything. Next slide, please. This is what we have now. Present, which is not simple now, which is definitely not a bit, but very much indefinite. But still it is continuous. Here you see the picture of our building, one of our buildings without glasses in windows. Now you can see what our rooms look like now. And now you see what our students are doing now. They are volunteering and they are helping those who need this help. Next slide, please. One more slide has been lost. And this is the slide where I was going to show, no, not this one. There was a slide where I wanted to show the difference between present perfect and past indefinite. You know, this is always very difficult for students to catch the difference. But if we say that we have lost 2 of our students who have died in the battlefield, it means that this is present perfect. We have lost them. One of them is One of them is the first-year student. He left school just this year, and he's no longer with us. Another one is our graduate. He was a banker. He used to be a successful banker. He had been a banker. We have lost him. And there is one more picture of a student who has survived, but he has been badly injured, and he was in the bus that was going to repair the electric systems. The bus exploded on the mine, and the fourth-year IT student of our university has survived. And this happened on the 7th of April. He was in that bus. And this is how we can explain what past indefinite means, when we focus on when and where, and just when we focus on the result. He has survived. All in all, we still think about the future, and we keep working. And future for us is definite, continuous, and definitely progressive. Here you see the slide of one of our online classes. Unfortunately, not all students can join. They have been scattered around the whole world. Sometimes half of the group joins. Sometimes even one student joins, and just still we work with them. And this is the picture of one of my recent classes, where we were talking about career choices and where we were talking about what success is. This is what students wrote in the chat. Success for them means different things. And just if they are successful, then we will definitely have our Ukrainian success. After the victory, definitely, because we have set this goal to win. Just due to our persistence, because we are persistent in our goals and in our wish to win. And just one of the girls wrote that success is reasonable risk plus knowledge multiplied by past mistakes. I am sure that the risks we are taking now are not reasonable. They are great risks. We know why we are taking them, and we will never make mistakes that come from the past. We are doomed to succeed. Success will be with us. Everything will be Ukraine. And thanks for your attention.
Oh, thank you, Ludmila, and thank you for this great story. And now the floor is given to Ludmila Sinna from Kharkiv.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Ludmila Sinna, and I'm a teacher of National Academy of the National Guard of Ukraine from Kharkiv. That is unfortunately bombing now again and again. I want to immerse you into my personal story of this war, because my life is directly connected with the military issues. And I want to say that I have been working at National Academy of National Guard of Ukraine about 15 years. And as you can see, these cadets and this academy is my second family. So I have several stories to share with you. And I want to say that unfortunately now, of course, I'm not teaching, because now all of my students, all of my sons and daughters are at war. So the first story is going to be the next slide, please. This story is about my graduates. Here you can see different kind of photos. Of course, we need to have some kind of secret of this, but I want to say that all of my graduates now are in hotspots of Ukraine, and they are fighting with our enemies, Russian troops, and doing it with no fear. They're doing it valiantly and risking their lives for our peace, and we appreciate it, and every day we are in touch with them. Unfortunately, the next slide, please. Unfortunately, now we have some kind of casualties. 2 cadets are wounded, And one that you can see on this slide, Sergei Smilin has died on the 18th of March this year on the Donetsk territory. He was very brave, and his motto was, "Everything will be okay, Ludmila Yurievna." He always said this, and we believe in this too. Next slide, please. Nevertheless, we have consistent belief in our glory, of course, and that's why in our big Ukrainian family, even I may say, we have clear understanding that unity is our strength. So that's why every day my colleagues and I are keep in touch with our cadets, and you can see the real photos, and this is my real graduate Christina, and every day we are trying to donate and to help them as much as possible. So for example, for the first month we have bought 10 drones for them, and even if I'm not mistaken, 12 visual night imagers. So if you want to donate, if you want to join, please, you're welcome. We will be very grateful for your support, and maybe if you have the opportunity to share all of our information, we may say that we really need it. The next slide, please. So if you want to listen the more personal story I want to share with you, all of these photos that you can see now are from my freshman. And this story is so personal for me too, because the last lesson that we had, it was on the 23rd of February. I was taking a participation in the NATO courses for creating multimedia podcasts, and it was audio and video podcast. And I had the idea on the 23rd of February that my freshmen could help me. And there were 5 questions about their military life and the region, what is it? And I may say that they wanted to help me, and for each question that I had for them, for example, what does it mean a military life for them? Or maybe how did they become a military? They have sent different kind of photos. And I have so many photos of them, maybe 100 now. And I promised them to create a video podcast about their personal vision of their military life. And we have decided that the last photo that you can see here, we are all together standing in our classroom. So we will send as the last photo for our video podcast. Unfortunately, I haven't done this because 24th was the day of my exam. The 24th was the deadline of sending and creating this video podcast and having this certificate. But the life has changed, and now I have a dream to create this video with them after victory. And we will watch all together all of these videos, and we will recollect everything as a nightmare. But we are believing in our victory, and I may say that Ukraine will stay strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ludmila. Thank you. And now the floor is given to Serhii Petrenko from Kyiv National University.
Nice to see you all. As you may have seen from the news, since the start of war from the 24th of February, Russia has sent hundreds of missiles to the residential areas. According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, around 12 million people, more than 1/4 of the total population of Ukraine, have fled their homes in Ukraine. More than 7 million people were internally displaced, and approximately 5 million left the country. Dozens of thousands of civilians lost their lives in Ukrainian cities and towns attacked by Russian troops. Extensive environmental damage is also present, as water supply and sewage systems and communications are targeted. Port infrastructure along the coasts of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov is attacked, and nature and biosphere reserves and national nature parks have suffered significant losses. While retreating, Russian troops plant mines in the previously seized Ukrainian territories, as we can see in Bucha and Irpin and Hostomel and many others, leaving them even in the children's toys. Roads, airports, and bridges, fuel stations, food warehouses, and water reservoirs continue to be targeted. Around 200 hospitals, 300 kindergartens, more than 7,000 residential buildings, more than 60 churches were destroyed or damaged. More than 80 educational institutions were entirely destroyed, and more than 800 were damaged. When the war started, for a couple of days, we continued to have online classes at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, where I teach English for students of political science and history departments. But the situation in Kyiv became worse from day to day. And by the order of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, all university classes postponed for some period of time. And the education process restored only in an online form, only in April. However, before April, together with my students, we launched several projects. Firstly, we figured out that Ukraine is in the TV news channels, YouTube, newspapers around the world. Some names of Ukrainian cities, towns, and villages are mentioned. Then people want to check where those cities are. They Google and luckily find Wikipedia articles about them. You can see, for example, Bucha, Hostomel Airport, Battle of Chornobyevka articles. The problem is that Russian propagandists have already worked there and written fake information about the war in Ukraine just before the war started, that they captured cities, towns, and airports, and a lot of other stuff. Therefore, together with my students, we decided to verify the information in Wikipedia and correct it, providing truth. Students and teachers from different universities have joined this project and verified the information about Kyiv, Kharkiv, Sumy, Mariupol, Kherson, Mykolaiv, Bucha, Irpin, Hostomel, Vasilkiv, Chernobyl, and many others. Next slide, please. Secondly, students prepared letters to scientists, teachers, organizers of international conferences to support Ukraine in its fight against aggression of the Russian Federation. We have reminded that any cooperation with this country and the participation of Russian scientists in their projects and conferences is tantamount to their tolerance of crimes against humanity in international law, as Russia grossly violated the United Nations Charter, the Helsinki Final Act, the Budapest Memorandum, the Geneva Convention, and many, many others international treaties. Other activities that we have done are posting truthful information on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, giving interviews to international media channels. When the education process restored at our Kyiv University, we all understood, English teachers, the general topics, vocabulary, and grammar would not be beneficial to students in wartime. That's why Scott Thornberry's dogma approach became very helpful at this time. The first element of the lesson, which is activating schemata or background knowledge, but it is already known, the war in Ukraine. We don't need to prepare any other topics because the topic is only one. And this is our background knowledge and schemata. Therefore, students are really enthusiastic to read articles in newspapers, watch videos of different political scientists, military experts, modern philosophers, for example, Francis Fukuyama, analyze them and find new vocabulary. And at the same time, it is easier to learn them in the context. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sergey. And finally, Irina Zuyenok. Irina.
Hello, everybody. I'm Irina Zuyenok, an associate professor of Dnipro University of Technology, for more than 100 years known as a national mining university. It is a great honor for me to represent here the Department of Foreign Languages, the EFL teachers of who are all the TESOL members of Ukraine. And first of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about our city for you to understand why you saw it's on the map at the beginning. So Dnipro is an administrative center of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast with a population of more than 1 million people. As our Dnipropetrovsk Oblast borders on the, just a moment, Kharkiv, Donetsk, Kherson, Mykolaiv, Zaporizhia, Poltava, and Kirovograd Oblast, it is quite natural that it is a logistics center of the eastern Ukraine. That is why, from the very first days of the war, it became a host for refugees. First of all, for Kharkiv people, then for Mariupol citizens, Kramatorsk of the little settlements and towns of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast, where the refugees have found their temporary shelters, or better to say homes, for the period when they will have a possibility to come back to their homes. Our volunteers help them and Dnipro citizens to evacuate to other oblasts or even to other countries. As university teachers, we realize that the national economy of Ukraine is in need and will be in need of highly qualified specialists. That is why we only took 2 weeks out to adapt our teaching learning process to make it possible fully online. Because many of our students are in different oblasts now. Many, I know personally, my students, they're in Czechia, Slovenia, Poland, Germany, and many other European countries. That is why our university has opened its digital space, not only for our university students, but also for the universities which are bombarded now, or maybe some are destroyed. And I would like to share with you how it works. It is very easy. If you wish to join our open digital space, you need to fill in the form and go to the site, which is on the left, you can see, and choose. If you are a staff, you will choose as a staff. If you're a student, you will click on students. As far as you click on this menu, you will see the Office 365. That is, we are working with Microsoft for more than 7 years. That is why you will join our open digital space, because you will be given your own corporate e-address. And as soon as you click on enter the site, you will find out, you can see my personal page, you can see my Outlook, and see the letters where I communicate with students, with the administration of the university, with the TESOL International, and different other organizations. Also, with the help of your corporate address, you can go to the distance learning platform, which is based on Moodle. But what is where you also can, sorry, back please. You can also, from your address, you can open teams for each of your groups. You can see them in the middle, and where you can use such functions as postings, files, assignments. And here I shared with you the screenshots from my real virtual classroom, which we use mostly for synchronous communication, because it is like virtual real classroom, where we can meet with our students, so-called face-to-face. But we decided to shorten the time for this real life communication to 20 minutes. But we always take video recordings for those who couldn't join us, and they can then go to the files and have a look what we were doing during the class. But the major process, please, next slide, is organized on the Moodle platform. Well, you can see here where we have designed different courses And here you can see my personal office with a list of the online courses designed by me, using the materials donated by the American and British specialists, and also the results of my trainings, and especially taking part in TESOL-Ukraine summer and winter schools. And here you can see on the list 2 obligatory courses. One is, which is English for specific purposes for undergraduate students. The other one is English for professional purposes for postgraduate students. And also here you can see some optional courses on business English and English for media literacy. And also you can see the description of the courses, and maybe it will make you give a hint how we communicate being at a distance and asynchronically. Personally, I prefer to use forums for this purpose, and because what it helps students to communicate, to interact, and develop their writing skills. And for example, if you have a look at the middle on the bottom, you may see, no, this the previous slide, please.
Irina, we don't have time. People start from the.
But we are not limited to the obligatory, well, okay, next slide, please. We are not limited to the obligatory classes online, synchronously and asynchronous. We also help our students to survive their psychological trauma to participate in different extracurricular activities, to help them to communicate and discuss some maybe burning issues during roundtable discussions, and participating in different conferences, forums where they can share the results of their research. Of course, many of our students are involved in work as volunteers, and if you wish, it's better to show you some videos, just in case you're interested, about how our students participate in extracurricular activities, the results of their project work, and maybe of helping to refugees to move to Bulgaria. Thank you for your attention.